of the world or on Canada. You are leading the charge for the world's freedom. Be encouraged. Hold the line. Stay strong. Do not give in. The Bible says that for such a time as this, God raised us up. You were born for this time in eternity.
Hey, don't be rude. He's a preacher. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, you nuts? What? What's wrong with you? What back off? This is a clergyman.
Get out of the
What's wrong with you?
You guys are the ones.
We have this issue where he's supposed to be defaulted to release, and yet he's being incarcerated. And I think a lot of people who are familiar with the bail system would say, yeah, it is pretty rare for somebody who doesn't have a criminal record, who has not been convicted of any crimes, who has this relatively novel approach from the Crown saying, oh, you've incited these people to continue or something, their protest.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News, and I am joined by Sarah Miller of JSS Barristers, who, as you know, has been working on behalf of Pastor Artur Pawlowski at no cost to him, thanks to your donations at saveartur.com. A very troubling ruling today from Judge Olsen that Pastor Artur Pawlowski is being denied bail. He will be held behind bars until at least March 11th at this point. It could even be longer than that. To break down this troubling ruling, I'm joined, as I mentioned, by Sarah Miller. Can you tell us about the justification by the courts to keep Pastor Artur Pawlowski behind bars?
Absolutely. So there's a three-part kind of test that you need, or three elements that you need to consider when you're deciding whether or not to keep somebody who's been accused of a crime in custody, right? Because we have a presumption of innocence in Canada. We presume people are innocent until a trial has been concluded and we've proven their guilt. So there's first, what are they going to attend court, right? Or are they a flight risk? That's the first one. That one wasn't argued by the Crown and wasn't addressed in the decision today, because it's clear that Artur's going to attend court. He's got counsel, he's got family here, he's not a flight risk. The second aspect is about public safety, and the third aspect is about the administration of justice. So Judge Olsen today found that because Artur has previously not complied with the public health orders, that's a public safety issue, and that he's unlikely to comply with any conditions that she puts on him pending for his release pending trial. And her other concern was that the administration of justice would come into disrepute because he has been accused of violating a number of orders, public health orders or court orders, and flouting the public health system. So she found on that basis, I'm kind of toning down what she said in court today. There'll be a reported decision. People can read her words for themselves. But that's kind of the summary. There's a three elements of whether or not to release somebody, and she found against him on two.
So, I mean, I would say that the administration of justice has come into disrepute, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's because of Artur Pawlowski. I'd say the ongoing persecution and harassment of Pastor Artur Pawlowski, not putting the words in your mouth, but may have brought that into question. What's vexing to me is the argument that this is now, it's because of a safety measure. We're seeing many of the mandates, restrictions, and sort of policies that these charges, or that these at least allegations that the Crown is making, they're being dropped in society largely. Restriction exemption programs dropped, masking set to expire very shortly. So the government seems to be saying that these are no longer a risk and no longer a threat, and that therefore they are being dropped. But the court, for some reason, is saying that his actions are a threat to public safety.
Yeah, so I mean, right as you said, Adam, we argued in court last week that it would be putting the administration of justice in disrepute to keep him incarcerated. This is a very well-known problem in our criminal justice system. We create a crime, or there is a crime in the criminal code, and we charge somebody under it, and then they're released on nebulous release conditions, right? So what we're dealing with Artur Pawlowski is the recriminalization, all stemming from one arguably wrong decision that is currently being appealed and that we're going to argue in June. And if we get that decision overturned, all these other knock-on effects have already happened to Artur. Yeah. He's already suffered that. And so for him to be incarcerated, to be put in jail because he has expressed and acted contrary to the public health message that's out there is really concerning from the administration of justice perspective, but not only for Artur Pawlowski, but because this is a system-wide issue. Yeah. We know that there's this constant revolving door with criminals or accused criminals, depending on where they're at in the system, with the remand center. That people get charged with something, they're released, they have some sort of condition like you can't drink, and they have an addiction to alcohol, right? So then they're drinking at home and they're charged with more criminal charges, which creates all these knock-on effects in their lives, exacerbating their addiction issue, right? And this revolving door happens. So we're getting the same thing with Artur Pawlowski, and exactly as you said, it's extremely frustrating because the charges all stem from public health measures that are all being incrementally withdrawn over the next couple of weeks. So she says, he's going to reoffend. She goes on about this in her decision about the risk of reoffending and how he's not complying with orders. Well, all of those orders that he has been objecting to and fighting against and protesting against are all going to be gone. So if they're lifted this month, and presumably, looking at past history, they'll be lifted until September at least, hopefully longer, but, having a pessimistic view, well, we could have a trial before then and find out that he's not guilty of any of this. Yeah. And instead he's going to sit in Calgary Remand Center and be incarcerated. Yeah. For public health measures that aren't going to be in effect for most of that incarceration period.
It's incredibly surreal, and as though to make it worse, we've seen international attention drawn to this because the fact is that he didn't have an addiction and hit someone in an accident while drinking and driving. He wasn't dealing drugs. He wasn't pimping. He wasn't doing anything overtly criminal. What he was doing was feeding the homeless when some health measure said that he shouldn't be doing that, and opening his church. So it just makes so glaringly apparent how almost hypocritical it is that they're persecuting him. Can you just mention or comment briefly how common is it for someone, because one of the things we've often heard is that he's being treated worse than a terrorist, worse than a drug lord. How common is it for someone to be denied bail?
So I don't know. I don't have the statistics, frankly. I don't think that they're published about how many charges go through the system and bail is objected to by the Crown and what the success rate of defense counsel are. I don't know those statistics. What I know is what the case law says from the Supreme Court of Canada, which says we should be defaulting to release. In every circumstance, we should be trying to release these individuals into the community, not over-incarcerating our population. And so when you look at those Supreme Court of Canada cases, and I mean, even the Judge Olsen today quoted them or cited them at least, Antic, St. Cloud, and sorry, I'm of course forgetting the third one as soon as I go to say them. We have this issue where he's supposed to be defaulted to release, and yet he's being incarcerated. And I think a lot of people who are familiar with the bail system would say, yeah, it is pretty rare for somebody who doesn't have a criminal record, who has not been convicted of any crimes, who has this relatively novel approach from the Crown saying, you've incited these people to continue or something, their protest, even though that seems quite questionable in and of itself. It's very, I think, in this circumstance, very rare. But the thing is that the justice system, they're paying attention to what Artur Pawlowski is doing. He's a loud person. He's not shying away from the normal measures that usually make everybody else shy away, right? Somebody gets charged criminally, usually they start complying with everything, right? But Artur has stronger convictions than that. He's not been beat down yet, and hopefully he will be released on bail review, and hopefully that will be in a few weeks.
So let's talk about that quickly. Presently, the next major court date scheduled for March 11th, but you're planning to effectively appeal this bail decision. Is that what's going to happen on the horizon?
Yeah, so we're gonna apply to a higher level of court to have the bail decision reviewed. A number of things have changed since last week, and in addition to that, we just think that the incarceration of Artur Pawlowski in these circumstances is unreasonable. So we will be bringing an application to have that decision revisited. Whether or not that's successful, I would have thought that today we'd have Artur out on the streets. So we hope that it will be successful. We plan for it to be successful. We're working, my colleague and I are working pretty much nonstop on this to make sure that we can get the best chance of success. And that will hopefully be heard by the Court of Queen's Bench, the next level of court, in the next couple of weeks. And then, so he might be released, shortly after that, depending on how long the court decides to wait before they issue their decision, and if they agree with us.
Well, we're very thankful to the folks out there who are donating at SaveArtur.com. The reason Sarah and her team can work so hard to fight for Pastor Artur Pawlowski's release is because of your donations at SaveArtur.com. So do please consider going to SaveArtur.com, donating. You do get a tax receipt for that donation. So head there now. Keep them working to get Pastor Artur out of jail. Thanks so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos.
I want to thank you so much for your support. I want to thank you for every dollar, for every donation you have sent to the Rebel News, for the lawyers, that I can stay out of jail. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May God bless you for your heart. You're part of this movement. You're part of this defense. Without you, we would not be able to do what we have accomplished so far. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.